Hello, everybody. Hello from Germany. I am Andreas. I'm a communication scientist at Ilmenau University of Technology, and for a number of years now involved with the SETI Post-Detection Hub, and right now a general member of the NASA DARES Task Force #2. And in these different contexts, I'm concerned with how SETI and its potential discoveries and astrobiology in general are communicated in society, and what possible impact that might have in the field and trust in SETI and science in general. So here comes a study about public perceptions and communications of searching for technosignatures and detection claims, which we have had in the past quite a lot already. And that's what we are going to examine. I'll start with some acknowledgements. So this paper was co-authored with my colleagues Anamaria Berea and Abdullah Almalki from George Mason University, a very nice and productive collaboration that started last year at the SETI Symposium at Penn State. And I would also like to thank very much my grad students from TU Ilmenau, Anjali, Mohsin, Mehmet, Saira, Shaoting, and Gerhard, who helped me very much with watching and coding hundreds of videos on YouTube that deal with matters of SETI and astrobiology and claimed detections of technosignatures and or biosignatures. All right, so here we go. Well, first of all, I think many of you would probably agree that science communication is an important part of science in general, but especially for astrobiology and SETI. The hopes related with science communication or goals are often to create awareness for the field, generate interest, influence opinions, help to have an understanding of science, also attract young scientists to the field. On the other hand, risk communication in general is trying to help or support informed decision-making when it comes to perceived risks, for example, to better understand potential risks, to support self-protection or protection of others, but also to be a positive influence in a democratic governance process of risk. And that can also be of relevance sooner or later, or maybe already in the fields of astrobiology and SETI. On the other hand, sometimes we have some kind of conflict of interest between these two fields of communication, because science communicators, for example, are sometimes concerned that if you do risk communication, you amplify risks unnecessarily, you may damage institutional reputation, or maybe you even erode your sources of funding or public support. Risk communicators, on the other hand, are sometimes concerned that science communicators would downplay risks that are more or less legitimate, downplay uncertainty, or overemphasize the benefits and take more of a PR-like approach to science communication, where everything is nice. So, however, for our field of SETI and astrobiology, I would argue, and I'm not alone with it, that science and risk communication are essential. However, they require an evidence-based preparedness, monitoring, and evidence-based communication strategies to be effective. And if you want to develop and employ evidence-based strategies, you need, of course, empirical research on communication of SETI and astrobiology. And as I said, I'm not alone with this perspective. This was very much emphasized, as Catherine Denning pointed out yesterday, by the IAA SETI Permanent Committee in the latest declaration of, or the latest revision of the Declaration of Principles, where risk and science communication are both underlined as being crucial in this field. But also the recent workshop Communicating Discoveries in the Search for Life in the Universe pointed out that that kind of research and practice is needed, and the according expertise related to it, in order to support the field. And in that workshop were a lot of SETI scientists, like, for example, Sophia Sheikh, and a lot of NASA representatives, and of course a number of social scientists, including communication scholars. And that's why we took that recommendation seriously and conducted some empirical research at the intersection of risk and science communication. Our research goals were to find out how YouTube videos frame the past cases of claimed detections for both technosignatures and biosignatures. From a risk and science communication perspective. We asked who is communicating about this topic or who is quoted as a source. Third, we wanted to see and find out whether there are any differences between videos that on the one hand emphasize on biosignature search or claimed detections, and on the other hand emphasize on technosignature search or detection claims. And finally, of course, we wanted to see, at least in the first step, how these kinds of videos, this kind of content about claimed detections of extraterrestrial life resonates with viewers and their engagement with that content. If you wonder why YouTube, I'll keep that very short. Number one, it is at least the second most used social media platform in the world, and latest science communication surveys have shown that social media, including YouTube, have become the number one source for science information in most of the countries in the world, with the exception of a few European countries and Japan. So that's why we looked at YouTube. This is actually part of a research program that I'm working on together with Anamaria and Abdullah and my grad students, and hopefully others very soon. It's a combination right now of two studies. The first study is a quantitative content analysis of YouTube videos, so human coded. Thank you to my grad students. So for now, we analyzed a sample of almost 500 videos here. With a codebook of more than 100 variables. And the second study comprises a computational automated analysis of video comments and video comment engagement. And there we analyzed over 150,000 comments, such as likes, replies, text length, and a few other measures that I will show. Some of it I will show later. So, as the CDSLU workshop recommended, we should learn from past cases of claimed detections. So I'm not the one saying these are detections in any way, but there were claimed to be detections in a number of videos and on YouTube, but also social media posts, media articles, etc. So we picked a number of cases that were more or less recent. On the technosignature side, those were the case of Tabby star, where for some time it was assumed to be a Dyson sphere around there. And we also looked at the cases of Oumuamua and 3i Atlas that crossed our solar system. Again, I'm not the one saying this was a technosignature, but there's a lot of content out there that claimed that, including a few scientists. And on the side of biosignatures, we looked at the cases of K218b and Venus phosphine that I think you're all familiar with. All right. So what we did basically is we did an API request to YouTube to retrieve a number of videos on these 5 different cases, and then coded these videos according to the variables that we were interested in, plus all the metadata on comments, likes, engagement, and I'll show you those results later. So, finding number one, most of the channel owners of those detection claim videos were private science channels. So, not very obviously any institutional channels, but usually individual persons or science influencers that produce and convey this or distribute this kind of content, plus a number of non-science related channels that are here and there interested in space matters or matters of extraterrestrial life. And still almost 10% of content was distributed by news media and on their YouTube channels, which, by the way, have a very strong or very high number of channel subscriptions. Now, for the videos that we looked at, we coded to what extent these videos refer to technosignature claims. That was almost half of the videos that we coded and analyzed. Almost a third of the videos were mainly or made a major reference to biosignature claims, so astrobiology, the search for extraterrestrial life in general. That's what I call SETL here, so SETL. And then 17% made only a minor or no reference to either of these fields, and a little bit more than 1% referenced both to a major extent biosignatures and technosignature claims. We found only a few videos that also made a reference to METI, Messaging to Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and ETI on Earth, or UAPs, as you can see here. And now this is the distribution on the 5 different detection claim cases. So you can see the majority was on 3i Atlas, followed by Venus Phosphine, and then Tabby Star and Oumuamua and K218b. Most of the videos that included references to METI or UAPs were mentioned in videos that had a major reference to either Oumuamua or 3i Atlas. So that was basically the occurrence of these topics was correlated. And then we found a few references to other technosignature claims, and that was mainly to I Borisov or other comets and objects comparable to Oumuamua, for example. But also the WOW signal was a prominent reference in this residual category. Now, if we correlate these references to technosignature search, biosignature search, and then METI or UAPs, we can see that there was a strong negative correlation between search for biosignatures on the one hand and search for technosignatures on the other hand. So these two topics are still quite separated in the content that is distributed on YouTube. So there's either a major reference on technosignatures or a major reference on biosignatures. They're very rarely mixed with each other. Who is quoted as sources in these videos? And I will focus here on 2 categories of videos because these are the larger numbers. So the videos that make a major reference to biosignature claims here on the left side, quoted primarily space scientists, so which is good news, followed by laypersons, which can be, for example, video narrators or other non-science, non-institutional people. After that, we have space agencies, and that is mainly NASA most of the time. And the other larger bar that you can see here are news media and journalists that are quoted and referred to. Those are the biosignatures. For technosignature claims, it's quite similar, but we found a larger share of layperson sources being quoted here, and a number of other sources on a low level that occurred here more often than for the biosignatures, including the SETI Institute, for example, but also hobby astronomers and government. Who is attributed to having come up with such a detection claim? In most of the cases, that was attributed to scientists, to space scientists, either in general, some astronomer or SETI scientists, for example, or specific individuals that are named in the videos, followed, but very rarely, by space agencies that are attributed to having made a claim, and then a little bit of SETI Institute, hobby astronomers, and laypersons. We also coded to what extent these videos make mention of benefits. So what are the benefits of searching for biosignatures. You can see that the larger share for the biosignature search emphasizes the benefits for science. Yeah, so it's helps science to gain reputation, to get funding, or other kinds of knowledge increase, for example, followed by a few benefits for humanity in general. So how does society at large benefit from this? And we found basically the same result for technosignature claims, or the search for technosignatures. There was basically no difference. The story changes when we look at how much these videos refer or mention to or mention risks that are related to SETI or the search for other forms of life. So you can see that there is a significant difference between technosignature claims, which a much larger share and frequency of risks compared to the search for biosignature claims. The type of risks that we found most frequently were risks for humanity, and then for technosignature claims as well, defense risks in terms of, so videos sometimes discuss, can the military defend our planet? How would they do that? And they're probably not prepared. Those kinds of issues were brought up here, but also to some extent the risk of misinformation that is attributed to individuals, scientists, or some people that come up with claims that are probably not true or unsubstantiated or something like that. So on the one hand, technosignature claims are much more related to risk in the discourse on YouTube. And the nature of risk is a little bit different, more on the side of can we defend, or what are the risks for humanity. This happens much less for biosignatures, search, or claims. What we found here was a little bit of discourse on forward contamination, so the risk of us contaminating other planets and the potential life on these planets. Which topics are mainly driving, for example, the number of risks? Yeah? So if we sum up all the risks that are mentioned in a video, and here we found again that technosignature search or specific videos talking about potential technosignatures are the main driver for risks. So you see here the correlations in red are the ones that are the topics that are correlated with the number of risks. Yeah? So the more we find reference to this topic, for example, SETI, the higher is the number of risks in the video. But if we go down to the individual detection claim cases, we can see that 3i Atlas was actually a large driver here for the number of risks. So apparently that discourse about 3i Atlas led to some kind of risk amplification, probably unjustified, but happened as such on YouTube and may have to be taken seriously as a discourse. We also coded who was made responsible for these risks in the video, so who is blamed to be the source of that risk. And we found, and these are the red bars here, by the way, we found that the main culpables are the extraterrestrial intelligences here that are most often attributed to be the source of the risk, potential risk for humanity, for example. When it comes to benefits, these are the green bars. Usually science is attributed to be the source of that benefit. So that's good news for science, bad news for the extraterrestrials in our YouTube discourse. From a risk communication perspective, it's always very important to understand, are people aware of countermeasures, of measures that help us to mitigate, control, or manage a risk? And here we found that most of these videos and narratives do not contain any measures, any discussion of what can be done, what should be done, or what is being done. When it comes to risks, what mainly was discussed, but not very often, was demands for more transparency, a discussion of planetary protection or defense of Earth or something like that, and a little bit of discussion of protocols and how we should prepare for a positive detection or maybe first contact or things like that. And when it comes to the benefits, videos mainly talked about research to harvest these benefits, doing more research, get more funding, for example. We also looked at who is attributed to be the one in charge to either mitigate risks or harvest the benefits. Science was the most mentioned category here, followed by space agencies, and everybody else basically didn't matter so much in these videos. It was interesting that for risk mitigation, for example, mainly space agencies and government were seen as being in charge or responsible. So science would be off the hook here. But of course, we aren't off the hook. We should be very much part of that process. From a protocol perspective, and also what we tried to work on in the SETI post-detection hub, for example, it was very sad to see that the United Nations are basically never a topic, and their role in this process and of protocols and mitigating risks. Okay, given the time, I will skip a few slides now. In terms of how much certainty these videos expressed in terms of will we find techno or biosignatures in the future, the mean values indicate here that it's mostly unknown or uncertain. So that's how they label it, which is pretty much in line with, I would say, the state of the art. If we look at the individual cases of detection claims, we can see that most of them are somewhat in the middle. So we don't know, we are uncertain. We don't know if there is life or if this is an actual signature of anything. A little more pessimistic values were found for Tabby star. So this was more likely in the mean value to be not any sign of technosignature, for example. Then we looked at how these videos morally evaluate institutions or disciplines as either positive, that's value 1, or negative, that's value 3. And you can see that METI was evaluated negative, but everything else mostly positive, which is SETI, good news for the SETI community, astrobiology or biosignature search, even more positive. In the institutions like ESA, NASA, SETI Institute, positive as well. Government and politics, a tendency to negative. The main drivers of engagement that we found that increased views, likes, and comments were on the one hand, the number of risks in the video. So the more risks a video brings up, the more you get views, likes, and comments. And again, the main drivers for this engagement in this analysis were Oumuamua and 3i Atlas, that for a longer time were discussed as potential technosignatures or alien probes or different other interpretations. So these two events and the people who commented on it had an amplifying effect on the attention to it, but also on the risk discourse. And maybe a short glimpse at the computational analysis, where we analyzed more than 150,000 comments and the engagement with it. You can again see here on this graph that 3i Atlas or Oumuamua, they received a much larger share of comments compared to the biosignature cases and Tabby star. However, the emotions that we detected with this model were by frequency mostly positive, like curiosity, admiration, approval, but also amusement, which can be ridiculing at some point. But we also found a number of negative emotions related to it. So annoyance, disapproval, disappointment, even fear, although to a smaller extent, of course. But what is interesting about these negative emotions is especially fear and disappointment. They drive engagement. They are correlated to the reply count to comments, for example, and they're also correlated with the count of likes for comments. So these emotions can have an amplifying effect, maybe even a risk amplifying effect. And if we look at the emotions in detail by detection claim case, we can again see, and I keep it short now because I think I have to finish this. We can see again that the biosignatures and Tabby star are related more or less to positive emotions, less so Oumuamua and 3i Atlas that triggered a lot of annoyance, fear, but also anger in comparison to the other cases. All right. So, in summary, individual science influences are very important and should be taken into account beyond news media and beyond the institutional science communication channels. Technosignature claims can easily turn into risk narratives, especially when it's related to objects that somehow are getting closer to Earth. There is an absolute lack of efficacy in the risk discourse, so the countermeasures for risk mitigation, they deserve more attention. They are not happening in these video narratives, at least. Biosignature claims are perceived a little more positive, and science benefits are very much stressed over benefits for humanity. And I think that should be a lesson for science communication. We need to stress more these benefits for humanity, not just science. So what do we do with that? That's my last slide, promised. Number one, we should, in this field, we should use more social listening tools and analysis to monitor detection-related discourses, including those that we consider unjustified, like maybe 3i Atlas, because they show us what's going on out there, who has concerns, maybe who is in fear, and how should we address that with communication strategy. Second, even unjustified technosignature claims may require a more decisive response from certain institutions and space agencies in order to maybe calm people or explain the science side a little more clearly here. And number three, space agencies, SETI research centers, and so on should engage more in protocols and contingency planning for post-detection situations, but also post-detection claims that turn out to be no actual detections, because even those can trigger fear and concerns. And then once we do this, we need to communicate about these activities, including the protocol development itself, because it helps to calm people. And number four, those preparedness measures and communication strategies should be based on evidence. For that, we can and should use the available knowledge, models, and best practices of risk, crisis, and science communication. However, we need to conduct and hopefully fund more SETI-specific research on these matters in risk and science communication, which is still seriously lacking from my point of view. Okay, that's it. Thank you for your attention, and I close with this little AI-generated picture. And by the way, in this picture of a public announcement of a discovery, the only thing that I controlled and told the AI to do of a person and how the person looks like is the main speaker. You can look at the persons in the background. There's an interesting AI bias there.